Okay. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth. Okay, now, I think we're live. Oh my God. Okay, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Okay, look, things got a little crazy there for a second. I didn't remember the live stream button, so I couldn't figure out what had gone on. All right, I think we're good now. Good morning. Let me put this. Oh, wrong mouse. I got mice. I got stuff going on. Okay. Now, I mean, y'all gotta give me just a few minutes. Like, you already know, like, what the trauma is. Oh, hey, Bailey. I'm trying. Okay. So, I am reading your all's comments on my Mac, and then I'm broadcasting on this. The good news is we are going to, my Advanced Kentucky grant has given me money to buy a microphone, so hopefully that's going to be good, or better. So I was worried about the echo thing. And then I do want to say that I had the echo. Oh no. Oh, hi Ella. Oh, hi Cohen. I was thinking about you this morning. Leah Ford. Hey. Hi Ethan. So this does me good. Oh, Xander. Oh, look. Thank you for asking, Xander. I went for a run this morning. I think I'm better now. Hi, Trevor Church. See, this is what I need. I need to see your little faces. I mean, not your faces, but your little, like, names. Can we talk about the FRQ? Of course we can talk about the FRQ. I don't know anything about the FRQ. I haven't looked at it yet, but what I thought I would do is it may help us to just do a separate, after I've looked at it, do a separate cast of what the question's asking about. I know that a lot of you are asking me, hi Bryson, you're asking me, you know, how am I going to grade it? I don't know. Can I see it? I don't know. I just am getting started. Like the fact that I am YouTube living with you guys right now, I feel like I should get an award for that. And I know it's not enough. And so I'm going to look at AP Central today, and then I will announce something on Google Classroom about a time that we can do this again. And and we'll talk about the FRQ, either together as a whole group or not. What I want is for you to keep the tomfoolery to a minimum today. I received some emails from some kids that were like, well, I felt like I had questions, but I felt like I couldn't get in because the conversation on the live stream was a little erratic. And so, although I love the crazy stuff you guys say, I do respect that. And I also, I mean, like, oh God. Are you guys getting an echo still? Shoot. Okay, I'm going to unplug it and plug it up again. Is that better? Okay, I'm just going to keep talking until somebody, Bailey, you say, yeah, it's better, or Bailey, you say, yeah, it's echoing. I'm getting his yeses. Yes, the echo's really bad. Yes. I know. Still an echo? No? You're fine? Now you guys are sending me mixed messages. Are you listening to yourself? Obviously, I'm not listening to myself. What could be the problem? It's okay, keep going. No, that's not it. It's better. Do I have the stream open in the background? No. This is seriously my Hades. Like if I put it in both ears. Thank you, Matthew Hendricks. Okay. So that's what my plan is today. Is I'm gonna pull the FRQ. I'm gonna look at it. When you guys are writing the FRQ, I want you to be thinking, what is that crazy lady gonna say when she sees my response? And you know, I'm gonna like throw my hands in the air and be like, what? More? I need more. I want you guys to talk to each other about the FRQ. Again, we're all interested in quality, not quantity. So, FRQ we're going to deal with. I love Bryson. So, okay, let's get going. I know this is a tough topic because it's like pretty dry, but we're going to do our best. So, how can we improve our food security? Given the fact, and let's talk about the fact that the President of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump, went on the TV and shamed all those people for buying all that food. Appropriate. Like, why are you buying all the food? I think we're all going to be okay. So we have felt a little bit of what some other countries have felt about lack of food security. Just a little twinge, and it was not very nice, was it? Everybody needs to be better. Xander just asked how and when do I want the AP Central activities done. So by Friday, I would like you to have worked through Unit 1. Remember, there are 9 units, and our goal is to get through all 9. And Unit 1, ideally, is you're going to go through fast because we've covered absolutely everything in Unit 1 for sure. Okay? So one of the things that we can do to control food prices is to control food security is to control the price. So when you put a legal mandated upper limit on them in order to keep them artificially low, it makes the consumers happy, but it does make the farmers struggle to make ends meet. So we're going to get into a conversation where we're going to start to talk a little bit about subsidies. I think I have a video for us to watch on subsidies. It's definitely something that Mr. Goodrid said, you're not going to try to talk to your freshmen about subsidies. And I was like, yes, I am. And so that's one of the things that the government does is that they subsidize our farmers to help have them meet their financial needs while allowing us as consumers as a whole keep the prices low. Because remember, when we hike those prices, the upper middle class and upper class, well, they're going to move right on. Hi, Luke Taylor. Oh my gosh, it does my heart so good to see you pop up on my feed. That's good. Okay, second, they, which is the government, can provide subsidies by giving the farmers price supports, tax breaks, other financial supports to keep them in business and encourage them to increase their food production. So, the downside of the subsidies, the government subsidies are too generous, and when the weather is good, the farmers and livestock produce way more than can be sold. I was getting ready this morning, and I was thinking about you guys, and I was like, gosh darn, I miss all my little farmers. Like, you guys are so much more well-versed than I am about farming, because heads up, you are one. And that's fantastic. I do know that Uncle Jerry talks about good crop, high yields and low yields, and when you have a high yield, the price that you're going to get for it goes down. But when you have a low yield, then the price really goes up. So I do know there's a little bit of that. So this first video is a cartoon, and it kind of explains how subsidies can hurt as well as help. And I'll jump on the stream while you guys are watching.
A subsidy is basically a sum of money that the state gives to people from a certain industry to keep the price of the product or service they're selling lower than it would have normally been. Let's assume it costs Bill $10 to produce a hat, whereas someone from China can do it for just $5. In this case, a $6 per hat subsidy from Uncle Sam can help Bill all of a sudden produce hats cheaper than the Chinese. In some cases, subsidies benefit society as a whole. For example, by encouraging people to develop new technologies such as solar or wind energy, or by encouraging NASA to explore the universe. In a lot of other cases, however, they do more harm than good. For example, producing cotton would normally not be all that profitable in the United States because the costs are higher than in less developed countries. The US therefore heavily subsidizes this industry at the expense of people from some of the poorest parts of the world, in some cases, who are not able to compete. Brazil, for example, got upset and took this matter to the World Trade Organization. The result? Well, the US is now subsidizing Brazilian cotton producers as well, instead of rethinking their entire cotton subsidy approach. But what should poorer countries, such as West African ones, do in this case? Countries which don't have Brazil's influence and negotiation power.
All right. So, I feel like once again, our government is taking care of our farmers, and that's exactly what we should do. So, other government and private programs are increasing food security. So, we've got other alternatives. There are billionaires, I'm assuming they're billionaires to be millionaires, that are also like doing independent loans, getting a small farm going that you can apply for. There are, I know that my nephew was involved in a program where he applied for a grant and they made a garden in a homeless shelter. And they allowed the people to just come and pick as they would like. So there's all kinds of those programs out there that you can use to your advantage. So some programs provide small loans at low interest rates to help poor people start their business, to buy and grow their own food. United Nations Children Fund indicate that half to two-thirds of nutrition-related childhood health could be prevented at an average cost of $5 to $10 per child. Now, again, that sounds like a really low number, and I get it. Like if you're one of those, if you are one of those children and you think $5 to $10, I'm down to pay it. But let's think big picture here too, guys. How many people do we have on planet Earth? How many of them are children? So we're not talking about just $5 to $10. We're talking about $5 to $10 per child. So that is a large amount. So let's talk about our first bullet, immunizing more children. That's a huge conversation to be had. Here in America, you have the choice to immunize your child to a certain degree. And with my political leanings, I do feel like it is your choice. But you remember, my rights are not supposed to impose upon your rights. So it's my right not to immunize my child. I did, but it's your right to go to college and not be afraid of dying from the measles. So I have the right not to immunize, but then I don't have the right to go and try to get you guys sick. So I'm a big supporter of immunizing your children. I'm a big supporter of the herd. Let's get the herd immunized, and we eradicated so much that's showing back up again. Now, the preventing dehydration from diarrhea. This is, of course, you guys know how much I love to talk about poop. It is really a problem. But when we talk about the body, so everybody, like if you go out and you survey 100 people at Walmart and you say, where do you digest your food? They're all going to say you digest food in your belly or in your stomach. And that is not the case, right? Your belly, your stomach is more of a mashing and creating a greater surface area so that your intestines can do the digesting. So your small intestines do the lion's share of the work with the nutrients, and then your large intestines do the water extraction. So when you're eating and drinking normally, then your body has time to absorb the nutrients and absorb all the water that it needs. But when you have diarrhea, like you're sliding in home and your pants are full of foam, then it's moving through your body too fast, and your body can't extrapolate all that water that it needs. So let's compound this problem with a ton of the kids that are in this situation are living without safe, potable drinking water. So the water that they're drinking may be the very water that's giving them the diarrhea. Like, talk about another treadmill situation. So I don't know if you guys have drank Pediasure or Pedialyte. I haven't in forever, but I love you, Luke. Yes, let's not do this again today. So I drank Pediasure or Pedialyte. I'm not really sure. They're probably not going to be a sponsor of my channel. And it tasted awful, like terrible. And they say, don't worry, because babies can't taste things like we do, but it tasted terrible. But that's what they're proposing, is that this sugar and this water, sugar and salt, right, the electrolytes, are going to help prevent dehydration. But it's a big deal. So, preventing blindness by giving an expensive vitamin A capsule twice a year. I'll be honest with you, I don't know a whole lot about the blind epidemic that's out there. So, sounds good. Blindness is, not something, I mean, if we could prevent it, we probably should. All right. Here we go with our, we have the farmer's market. So, this is something we do. I did Zumba at the farmer's market one day. Oh my gosh, it was so embarrassing. And, it's the things that you do for, I guess, the people you work with. I don't know. So, I'll be honest with you. I stopped looking again because of the silliness that's going on. And I would like to answer your questions, but if every time I look over it's something stupid, then I don't want to stop my lecture for that. But I feel like Jacob just wrote, is that better than just water? And the answer is yes. Once you're in a state of dehydration, right, we definitely want to, we definitely want to drink good, like we're drinking good potable water, so that's fantastic. But once you're in that system of dehydration, you want to use, Pediasure, Pedialyte, Gatorades, all those things to replace, because more you've let loose more than just water. So our local farmers market that I was doing Zumba at last summer, and I will never tell you if I'm ever going to do that again, because that's, there are just some things that people should not have to do in a parking lot. And there I was. Miss Aglehart, her and her husband, Garrett, Mr. Aglehart, they participate in the farmer's market. I assume that you guys are maybe participating too. And that would be cool. Like, I would love to eat zucchini from your farm. I think that's cool. Let's talk about what we know. So, when you're talking about a whole, full cost pricing, so if your melons are coming from Florida, fossil fuels, carbon footprint, how many people, on and on and on. If your watermelon's coming from Whitesville or Knoxville, that's a better carbon footprint. And you're supporting those local businesses. So, reduces greenhouse gas emissions, refrigeration, all of those things. It's a good thing. All right, this is super cool. I think this is definitely something that we're going to lean into in the future.
In our Real Food series this morning, we're taking a look at the growing trend of vertical farming. The world's population will climb around 7 billion people to nearly 10 billion by 2050. That will make it even more challenging to feed everybody on the planet. Companies like AeroFarms are rethinking how we grow the vegetables by going up to provide fresh and affordable produce. Michelle Miller is at an AeroFarms indoor growing facility in Newark, New Jersey, with the technology behind vertical farming. That's what it's called. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning. Well, this is what vertical farming looks like. Arugula, kale, watercress, all growing indoors on shelves stacked 7 levels high. When it's all said and done, AeroFarms says it can produce 1.7 million pounds of greens every year. This is to scale.
This is what we mean by scale.
This 70,000 square foot facility housed in a former Newark steel plant
This is 36 feet high.
is CEO David Rosenberg's green machine. It produces 130 times more produce than the average field farm of the same size in America per year. But to fully understand this large-scale operation, you've got to go back to its roots, where it all began 7 years ago inside Phillips Academy Charter School.
Let me finish it up.
AeroFarms' prototype was planted in the school's cafeteria as a teaching tool for students to learn the basics of biology, chemistry, and nutrition. Essentially, these kids grow the greens for their school salad bar.
I think growing food every day and seeing it, I understand and have a better taste for it and a better understanding for it.
You appreciate it more.
I appreciate it a lot more.
The technology is called aeroponics, which grows the plants on this reusable fabric. Proprietary information.
Those are called trade secrets.
Yes, I know.
But as Savannah Love explained it to us, this process needs no soil, no sunlight, and uses less water than conventional farming.
We're misting it from underneath, so the water comes up through the sheet and it hits like the seedlings.
Hits them with a nutrient-rich solution that allows the plant to take root. These LED lights substitute for the sun.
This was probably seeded about 3 days ago.
Rosenberg says vertical farming offers higher yields with less land, less time, and no pesticides. They can farm indoors in any city, anywhere around the world.
From seed to harvest in 16 days, what otherwise takes 30 days in the field. And then we're able to do that 22 times a year versus in the field 3 times a year because of seasonality.
Still, not everyone is sold.
Early adopting is not necessarily bad.
Cornell University researcher Cale Harbick says his studies found indoor farms that rely solely on artificial light are not energy efficient or sustainable.
Just because it's possible to grow inside a warehouse doesn't mean it's a good idea, doesn't mean it's cost effective. If you do the math, the energy costs just aren't what they should be.
Harbick warns these companies struggle once their seed money runs dry. Case in point, one Chicago-based company recently shut down its growing operations.
These are our growing towers.
Rosenberg says AeroFarms LEDs that run 24/7 have been tweaked to save energy. He didn't share just how much. Investors believe in it. AeroFarms has raised over $50 million from the likes of Goldman Sachs and Prudential and received more than $9 million in state and local grants. Why would someone want to buy from you as opposed to a field farmer or a greenhouse farmer?
Here we're growing in the local community. That's the supply chain difference. But it turns out that we're able to compete on taste and texture.
By adjusting those lights and nutrients, Rosenberg says they can also make their arugula more peppery, their kale a little sweeter, which for many of us, parents in particular, might be the biggest selling point of all. Very flavorful.
Yes, it is.
Goodness. And you guys like your greens? You really eat them?
Yes.
They really do. And AeroFarms has also made a commitment to this community. About 45% of its employees are from the Newark area. They even sell these trays for about $3.99 in local supermarkets here, Margaret.
What do you think, Margaret?
I'll try it.
Yeah, but,
I'm vegetarian. Sign me up. I get excited about
I'm
those kind of
thinking
things.
peppery arugula. There's not a bad thing wrong with that. Nothing. I see the other side, what they're saying, but when you look at all the pros and the cons, the pros seem to outweigh the cons to me on that story.
Worth a try. Michelle,
very nice.
thank you. Cool story there.
So, much better. I'm seeing lots of discussion, and I love that. Like, I started to answer, and then I was like, no, you guys are answering each other. And yes, that does my heart so much good. So, some great things that I'm seeing is questions about how much does it cost? How much energy are they really using? Kaylee or Kylie one, I've switched my screens to talk to you about food desert, said, could we use greenhouses instead of the lights? So the answer to that is, of course we could, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to maximize growth. So they keep their lights on all the time. So when you talk about photosynthesis, remember when we drew the formula for photosynthesis, over the yield sign was sun, right, light. So what they're doing is they're keeping the lights on all the time to get the most out of the growth. So they're getting turnover, they're getting yield. And I know that Jacob talked about, is the yield going to offset the price of the electricity? Maybe, depends on what you're selling it for. So one thing that you guys haven't hit on yet is that we have food deserts. I know that Chloe mentioned, don't we have enough food? We're just not, utilizing it properly. And the answer is yes and no. So are we producing enough food for the world? Yes and no. Do you produce enough food for your family? No. Is there enough being produced here in America for all of the Americans? Yes, question mark. If we go back to let's locally grown, locally harvested, then see you later, avocado. So that leads me to food deserts. So again, the haves and the have-nots, right? So this, I'm on Very Well Health, and it says, while there's no one standard definition for a food deserts are generally considered to be places where residents don't have access to affordable, nutritious foods like fruits and vegetables and whole grains. And instead of grocery stores and farmers markets, these areas have convenience stores, gas stations, making nutritious foods virtually inaccessible for many families there. So, just spitballing here, when we think about where a food desert might be, it's all going to be inner city stuff, right? We don't have a food desert. I mean, we could grow a crop right now if we wanted to. Oh, I like that, Trevor Church. Why don't they turn the lights on during the nighttime and then turn them off during the daytime? Again, think about shelving. So we're vertically climbing, right? So I know this picture is showing you something that it looks like it is utilizing, Trevor, what you're talking about. But that other had the big wide shelves. So you would have less productivity. Now, I can see little Emma Roberts' face right now thinking about, well, some crops, need less sun than others. So maybe you could stack them up. I don't know. Maybe you guys can crack this case. Yes, they do just want it to taste good. I missed what Caleb said. I bet it was smart, though. Okay, good discussion. So, I don't know if you have considered how much food you throw away, but they say that we throw away somewhere between 30 and 50% of our food, and that it's worth $43 billion a year. I am going to say that's probably pretty accurate. Being skeptical always. We've talked about not being able to give our food away because of the litigious nature of our community, which makes us so sad. So in order for us to get to a place to where we're no longer afraid, it's going to take a whole head shift by everybody, right? That you're not allowed to do people like that. Okay, so we're on to 12-6. So it's a light day today. I'm going to spend the rest of my time looking at AP Central. And before I go live again to talk about the FRQ, I will post on Google Classroom what time that will happen. This is much better, guys. We're getting the hang of this. I can't imagine doing this and not knowing you all. Yes. So I'm going to sign off for now. I'm going to get on AP Central, going to take a look at it. I will post again before I go live again and talk to you about the FRQ. I'm going to try to sign off.